2025 is shaping up to be a very exciting year for fantasy readers. We got some epic sagas, we got some very promising debuts, and we have some long-awaited sequels on the horizon. So in today's video, I'm going to be going month by month and talking about the most exciting fantasy books that are releasing in 2025. Last year, I hit a point where I felt very overwhelmed and burnt out, and my focus really struggled because of that. And this year, one of my goals is to really focus on improving my focus and my mental wealth. And mental wealth is all about investing in yourself, your sleep, diet, exercise, and the small tools that help along the way. And Magic Mind fits into that perfectly. I've actually worked with Magic Mind in the past, and I've been really happy with the results. Their focus shots have been a game changer for my mornings. They're not meant to replace coffee, they're meant to complement it, giving me a clean energy boost without the crash. After using this for a handful of days, it has made a noticeable difference in my ability to focus. And at night, the sleep product helps me wake up feeling like I've actually rested. Magic Mind uses 12 active ingredients to enhance focus and clarity while reducing stress, all backed up by over 200 scientific studies. Ingredients like ashwagandha, L-theanine, turmeric, rhodiola, matcha, and vitamins B2, B3, B12. Many of these I've tried taking like separately, but having them all in one product is so much easier. It's not just about energy for today, but about setting up a better tomorrow. And Magic Mind is offering an exclusive focus and sleep bundle with 45% off using my link and my coupon code below. Plus, with every bottle sold, they donate to mental health charities. So it's a win-win all around. There's no better time than now. Make 2025 the year that you build your mental resilience. Huge thank you to Magic Mind for sponsoring the video. Okay, back to the video. Before I go month by month, I want to start off with some books that don't have exact release dates yet, but they are releasing in 2025. And I would say my most anticipated book of the entire year is the sequel to The Will of the Many by James Islington. This book was one of the best books I read last year. It's one of my favorite books now. James Islington is a new favorite author of mine, and honestly, I can't stop thinking about this book. I am so excited about the sequel, and book 2 is going to be called The Strength of the Few. If you haven't read it yet, you need to go read it. Such a good book, very well plotted. There's a lot of mystery in there. There's a very great, magical school in there as well. The characters are amazing. There's a lot of twists and turns. It pulled me out of a reading slump as well. The Will of the Many is top tier fantasy. Anyways, the sequel doesn't have an exact release date yet, but it's gonna come out in 2025. Maybe a bit later in the year. I'm not too sure yet, but I'm beyond excited. And then we have Isle of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 5th Secret Project novel, and it's kind of a sequel to Sixth of the Dusk. I actually really liked Sixth of the Dusk, and I've been waiting for a sequel, so I am very excited about this one. I know it's also gonna have a bit more about the future of the Cosmere, so I am excited for this one quite a bit. We don't have a release date for it yet, but it is releasing this year. I wonder if we're gonna get the nice hardcover editions like the other Secret Project novels. I'm not entirely sure. Let me know if you know. Another book I've been dying to read since it was released in Polish is the new Witcher book by Andrzej Sapkowski. I feel like a lot of people are not talking about this. It has been 11 years since Season of Storms, the last Witcher book, was released, in Polish at least. It took a while to get the English translation, but there's a brand new Witcher book that was released in Polish. I believe it was back in November of 2024, and this year we're getting the English translation, and I can't wait. I've been hearing a lot of good reviews about this from all the Polish fans. Apparently this is a really good Witcher book. Now, the title of the book in Polish translates to Raven's Crossroad. We don't have the official English name, so it could end up changing, but this new Witcher book goes back to Geralt's teenage years when he's only 18 years old, and he's taking his first steps as a Witcher. Now, again, the reaction from those that have already read it has been very positive. They say it's actually a good place to start with The Witcher, and apparently it's going to answer a lot of questions about Geralt's past and his evolution as a character, as well as dispelling some myths and revealing some of the history of the world that people have been wondering about. I've actually been wanting to get back into reading The Witcher. I've been thinking of doing a fresh playthrough of the games, so this is kind of perfect timing for me. I might wait for the audiobook though, because Peter Kenny does such an amazing job with the Witcher series. I highly recommend the audiobooks. I haven't really seen much hype around this new Witcher book, which is strange, but there is a review video by Wera, which I'm gonna link in the description. She has a fantastic channel, highly recommend checking out her channel. And yeah, if you want to know more about the book, make sure to watch that video. And then we have The Lord of Demons, book 3 in the Burning series by Evan Winter. Now, we haven't really had a lot of news on this book for a while now. I'm pretty sure it's gonna release in 2025, but we just don't have the release date yet. And I do know that Evan Winter's, his father passed away a while ago. He took some time off for that. So I'm not in a rush for this book at all. I think he should just take his time. But I am pretty sure it is releasing in 2025. So I am excited if that's the case. It's been a while since I read The Rage of Dragons, but I really enjoyed that book a lot. I haven't read the sequel yet because I was waiting for news about the third book, but I think this might be the year that I finally read the sequel. It looks like online it's expected to release May 8th of 2025, but that hasn't exactly been confirmed, so I'm not too sure. And then one more book that's very likely going to release this year, we just haven't had a whole lot of news on it recently, is Winds of Winter. I'm joking, not Winds of Winter. The 7th book and final book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown, called Red God. It's been a while since we've had an update, but I think it's likely going to release by the end of 2025 or by the beginning of 2026. Either way, you know, he can take his time. I am very excited to read it. Red Rising is an amazing series, and you should check it out. And finally, moving on to January. Now, obviously, a lot of these already released. I still want to mention them anyway, because they are new releases that you can check out. There is some that haven't released yet, so I'm gonna talk about them. On January 7th, we got Breath of the Dragon by Shannon Lee and Fonda Lee. And yes, I'm talking Fonda Lee, author of the Greenbone Saga, absolute legend, but also Shannon Lee, the daughter of Bruce Lee. The Bruce Lee. This is a YA fantasy duology based on characters and teachings from Bruce Lee himself. Now, being a 96 kid, I was introduced to Bruce Lee through my older brother, and I remember being blown away by the incredible display of martial arts, stuff that up to that point I'd never seen in real life. Like, I've seen it in anime and whatnot, but I didn't see anything like that in real life. And I'm excited to see how this translates in novel form. I know that Fonda Lee is great at writing action and martial arts, so I feel like this is going to be another hit. It looks like it already has some positive reviews. Let me know if you've read it. I'm looking forward to reading it. It follows a 16-year-old who's trying to prove himself as a warrior in the Elite Guardians tournament, held every 6 years to entrust the magical scroll of Earth to a new protector. Also, for all the books I'm going to mention, I will have affiliate links in the description, and using those helps the channel out so much, so thank you. Now, this next book says it's releasing in January/February, so I'm not entirely sure if it is coming out this month or not, but regardless, this is a book I've really been looking forward to. It's the sequel to Dreams of the Dying by Nicholas Lightsow. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly. This is one of the oddest books I've read, but it is fantastic. This is a horror fantasy novel. If described in one sentence, it would best be described as a bizarre mission to travel into a dying king's nightmares forces a drifting veteran to confront his own trauma. And I can't wait for the cover reveal because I really like the cover on this one. It's very creepy. From what I've been able to gather, it seems like the second book is actually being split into two because it was just too long. So this year, we're actually getting the second book and book 3 as well. So I'm very excited for it. Again, I'm not sure if it's releasing in January or February, That's what it says online, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On February 4th, Grave Empire by Richard Swan is releasing, and this is the first book in a brand new series that's set in the same world as his Empire of the Wolf series, which I've been meaning to read for a long time now. This is actually on my TBR this year, so I'm hoping to get to Grave Empire as well. Now, Grave Empire is actually taking place a little bit in the future. This is like a new age of innovation, and I think it's really cool when books do that. I mean, authors do that. I love seeing a series like after a time jump, and we get to see the innovations and how these innovations affected society. Obviously, the Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson does this very well. Same with The Age of Madness by Joe Abercrombie. Those are my favorite, and really the only examples I can think of like a big time jump in a fantasy world, but I always love to see it. It's always exciting seeing all the advancements and seeing how the world changed, so that makes me very excited to read both of these series. I also enjoy Flintlock fantasy, and this is dark fantasy mixed with Flintlock. I want to see that. I want to read more of that, so this is high on my list. And it looks like it's got high praise from authors such as Nicholas Eames, James Islington, R.J. Barker, and Sebastian de Castell. So that's enough to make me very intrigued. On February 18th, we have Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf by C.L. Clarke. This is an Arcane novel, and I am a massive fan of Arcane. If you haven't watched it, maybe you're not that into animated shows, maybe you just never really got into League of Legends. None of that matters. You need to go watch Arcane. Season 2 just came out. It was fantastic. Highly recommend checking out Arcane. And this book dives into the backstory of one of the characters, Ambessa. I'm not entirely sure if I am going to read this one. I do really like the character. I'm just not sure if I'm going to read this one or not. But I put it on this list just in case I do read it. Let me know if you think I should. Do you want to see a review of this book? Let me know. On February 25th, we have Dance of Shadows. Now, this is the sequel to Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. Now, about a year and a half ago, Gaurav actually reached out to me and he sent me this book. He sent me 2 books by accident. So I do have 1 copy that I'm going to do a giveaway for, but I'm waiting until I release a review for this book and then I'll do a giveaway. But I really need to get back to reading this book. I started reading it last year. I got around halfway through it, but then I had to put it down because I had so many books to read for SPFBO that year. So I'm hoping to get back to this one very soon. I'm just going to start from the beginning again because I still think about this book. It had a very strong impression on me. I've been looking forward to getting back to this. So I will be making a review on it later this year, and I'm hoping to get to the sequel this year as well. Now, I've heard book 1 described as a Song of Ice and Fire in an alternative Indian universe, and that's pretty accurate. This is sort of a reimagining of the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, and this really is a brilliant, epic, dark fantasy. It takes a lot of inspiration from A Song of Ice and Fire, and it does it very well, at least from what I've read so far. Again, I'll be posting a review for this in a few months. February 28th, we have Gatebound, the 3rd and final book in the Illborn saga by Daniel T. Jackson. Illborn is another book I was reading, but I had to put it down because of SPFBO. I just had too many books to read for SPFBO, so I am going to be returning to Illborn very soon. Again, this is another book that just had a very strong beginning. I'm really excited to get back into it, and I'm likely just going to read the entire trilogy this year, so it's perfect timing that book 3 is releasing. Moving on to March. Now, there's not a whole lot that's coming out in March that I'm excited for, except for at the very end of March, March 31st, we have Of Empires and Dust by Ryan Cahill. And this is book 4 in The Bound and the Broken, another series that's on my TBR this year. I have heard a lot of great things about it. Petrick Leo has given this series a lot of praise, and me and Petrick, we got a very similar reading taste, so I'm pretty confident I'm gonna enjoy this series. Moving on over to April, I'm really hoping this is not an April Fool's joke because we got two really exciting books releasing on April 1st. Starting off with A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the second book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series, book one being The Tainted Cup. Whenever I go to the bookstore, I'm always drawn to the cover of The Tainted Cup. I love the cover for both the US edition and the UK edition. I don't know which one I like more. Let me know which one you like more. But this is a series I've really been wanting to read. It's a fantasy mystery. I've been told it has kind of like a Sherlock and Watson detective duo, and I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. And I love when fantasy is equally parts mystery, so I feel like I'm really gonna enjoy this series. Let me know if you've read it, because I plan on reading it this year, and I would love it if you could hype it up for me, because I don't really know anything about it. And then we also have Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. I did enjoy book one in the series. I forgot the name of the series now. Book one is God Killer, and I did really enjoy that book. It had pretty great pacing. It's also a fairly short fantasy novel. So now that the final book is coming out, I'm probably going to start the second one very soon and hopefully be just in time for the release of book 3. I believe I mentioned God Killer in my short fantasy recommendations or my binge-worthy recommendations. I forgot, but that was a really fun book. I'm going to be starting the sequel very soon. And then on April 24th, we have Judge of Worlds by Daniel Abraham. And this is the third book in the Kithamar series. Book one is Age of Ash. This is actually on my TBR this year because I've heard that it has just a very atmospheric setting. It takes place in this massive city. And the book that I'm currently writing, I'm trying to develop this very atmospheric setting, so I feel like I can get some inspiration from this. I've also just heard a lot of great things about this book, so I'm very excited to start the series, and just in time for the release of book 3. Now, there hasn't been a cover reveal for book 3. There hasn't really been much information for it, to be honest, besides the release date, so I'm sure that we're gonna get a cover reveal later in the year. And then on April 8th, we have The Book That Held Her Heart. This is book 3 in the Library series by Mark Lawrence. This is one of my favorite series that I started just last year. Books 1 and 2, both of those made it into my top books of 2024 video, and they deserve that spot. And I don't know how to recommend this series enough. I don't see that many people talking about it, but I feel like this is the perfect spot to start with Mark Lawrence. If you haven't read anything by Mark Lawrence, I recommend picking up The Book That Wouldn't Burn, and let me know your thoughts, because it has the advantage of being written by a seasoned author who's enjoying his work. I haven't read everything by Lawrence yet, but this is definitely my favorite that I've read so far, and yeah, I'm gonna be picking up The Book That Held Her Heart on day 1. I'm very excited to get to it, and I hope that some of you will read this book so that we can talk about it. Let me know in the comments. Have you read any of these books? I would love to know. And if you haven't, I have a link in the description. You should go pick it up. Moving on to May. Now, this is going to be a very busy month for me. There is 2 books in particular that I plan on reading on day 1. Starting off with The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Abercrombie is in my top 5 authors of all time, if not my top 3. Joe Abercrombie's amazing, okay? I loved his First Law series, I loved the standalones, I loved the Age of Madness, I even really enjoyed his Half a King series. Whatever this man publishes from now on, I'm going to read. So, he's an auto-buy author for me. The Devils, from what I've heard so far, because there's been people that got early copies, I didn't get an early copy. I really wish I could, but from what I've heard so far, The Devils is one of his greatest books yet. So obviously, I want to pick this one up right away. I want to get a review out for you guys. Let me know if you're excited for this book. And then on May 27th, we have another big hitter, and this is a book I didn't even know was releasing. I had no clue. I didn't hear about this book at all. I don't know why people aren't talking about it. That is Written on the Dark by fellow Canadian Guy Gavriel Kay. Author of Tigana, All the Seas of the World, A Brightness Long Ago, the Fionavar Tapestry. Guy Gavriel Kay is one of the greatest authors of all time. I feel like in terms of quality prose, Guy Gavriel Kay is at the top for me. He is such an amazing author, and I really wish that more people would talk about his books. I plan on reading everything by Guy Gavriel Kay. He's an auto-buy author for me now, and this new book sounds very interesting. I love bard characters, so I feel like this is going to be a book I'm really gonna enjoy. Thierry Villard is a well-known, even notorious tavern poet, intimately familiar with the rogues and shadows of the world, but not at all with courts and powers. He's an unlikely person, despite his quickness, to be swept into the deadly contest of ambitious royals, assassins, and invading armies. But he is indeed drawn into all these things on a savagely cold night in his beloved city of Orane. And so Thierry must use all the intelligence and charm that he can muster as power struggles merge with a decades-long war to bring his country to the brink of destruction. As he does, he meets his poetic equal in an aristocratic woman who's drawn to more than one unsettling person, with a connection to the world beyond this one. Let me know in the comments if you've read anything by Guy Gavriel Kay and if you have any recommendations. On June 3rd, we have A Song of Legends Lost by M.H.I. Yindi. Now, not only was I drawn to the very cool cover art, but also there's a blurb on the back from none other than James Islington, who says it is a truly excellent debut. Listen, if one of my new favorite authors says this book is good, then I'm gonna check it out. An unforgettable tale of revenge and rebellion unfolds when an inexperienced king implements a doomed plan to end a 1,000-year war. On June 10th, we have book 1 in a brand new series by Kate Elliott called The Witch Roads. Now, I know that Kate Elliott has written a lot of books. She wrote The Crown of Stars, The Keeper's Six, The Crossroads. I haven't read anything by her yet. I have heard good things though, so I am interested in this new series. And not only is she releasing book 1, she's also releasing the second book on November 4th, titled The Nameless Land. And this is a duology, so we're getting the completed series this year, which is always awesome to see. When an arrogant prince and his equally arrogant entourage get stuck in Orletter Halt as part of brutal political intrigue, competent and sunny deputy courier Ellen, once a child slave meant to shield noblemen from the poisonous Pal, is assigned to guide him through the hills to reach his destination. When she warns him not to enter the haunted spires, the prince doesn't heed her advice, and the man who emerges from the towers isn't the same man who entered. The journey that follows is fraught with danger. Can a group taught to ignore and despise the lower classes survive with a mere deputy courier as their guide? On June 24th, we have The Last Vigilant by Mark A. Latham. This is really pulling at the old school fantasy lover inside me. I love this cover. I really wish I could get a hardcover of it. It doesn't look like they have a hardcover for pre-order, but it's very much giving Eye of the World, but with like a more modern art style, and I love that. I really like this cover a lot. It's basically sold me on this book. Set in a world where magic is forgotten, monsters lurk in the dark woods, and honorable soldiers are few, this utterly gripping epic fantasy tells the story of two flawed humans, an out-of-practice wizard and a hot-headed sergeant who are thrust into the heart of a mystery that threatens to unravel their kingdom's fragile peace. There is a longer synopsis as well. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. Now, I'm actually going to be skipping over July and September and August, because there's just not that many books that I'm excited to read that are coming out in those months. If I am making a mistake, if there's something releasing that you're really excited about, let me know in the comments, because I just wasn't able to find anything that sounds that exciting to me. Really, the only book in October that I'm excited for, on October 7th, we have Queen Demon by Martha Wells. This is the sequel to The Witch King. I enjoyed Witch King. I don't see many people talking about Witch King. I feel like the beginning of this book was very memorable. There's a lot of really unique things going on here, but there's a few things I feel like could have been done better at the same time. It is a really complex story. It alternates between past and present, and I really enjoyed the narrator of this story a lot. But at the same time, I feel like some of the motivations of the characters could have been explained better, but I'm excited to see if the sequel is going to improve on what I already thought was a pretty solid book. The Blackfire Blade by James Logan. This is another book I'm very excited for. It's the sequel to The Silver Blood Promise. This is a debut novel, and it made it into my top books of 2024 video. A few of the things I love in fantasy, I love like rogues and assassins. I love a crew that's pulling off a heist. I love witty banter. I feel like this book scratches an itch that always kind of works for me. I love, you know, The Lies of Loch Lamora, and this is perfect for fans of Scott Lynch. I feel like if you enjoy The Gentleman Bastards, you're going to enjoy this series as well. It's not quite as good, I feel like, as Scott Lynch, but nevertheless, it was still a very solid debut, and I can't wait to read The Blackfire Blade as well. I'm likely going to check out all the books by James Logan now because I can tell that he writes the type of fantasy that usually works for me. And then on December 9th, we have Tailored Realities by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is a collection of sci-fi and fantasy stories that are beyond the bounds of the Cosmere. Now, some of these we have heard of before, along with the never-before-seen novella Moment Zero. Tailored Realities will include Snapshot, Perfect State, Defending Elysium, a novella set within the world of Skyward, and 5 other stories that were originally published individually elsewhere. Never before collected into one volume, and many never before available in print. And each of the stories is going to be accompanied by a black and white illustration. I always love that Sanderson has a lot of illustrations in his work, so I'm excited for this. I'm not that excited for it. I've already read a few of these, but there is some that I haven't read yet, so I'm definitely going to pick this up. I don't know if it's going to be at the top of my TBR, and those are some of the most exciting fantasy books releasing in 2025. Let me know if there's some that I forgot to mention. Maybe I'm not even aware of them, so let me know if there's any books that I should put on my radar. And if you want to join a welcoming community of fantasy readers, then make sure to join my Discord server. It's been growing a lot recently. I'm trying to be more active on there this year, so make sure to check it out. Also, huge thank you to all my patrons, my channel members, and everyone who helps out on Ko-Fi. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.